For those of you who follow my channel or are into the retro gaming scene, I'm sure you know who Analogue is. They have done a lot of cool stuff in the past with FPGA-based gaming. They recently released the Mega SG, which is their Genesis system. And then prior to that, the Super NT, which was the Super Nintendo FPGA-based system. I have both of them. I think they're awesome. Prior to that, they released the NT and the NT Mini, which was an NES-based, NES FPGA-based system. Really awesome stuff. And there's a lot of news going on right now with their firmwares, jailbroken firmwares for both the Super NT and the Mega SG. A lot of cool new stuff that we can do. And we'll be taking a look at that in the very near future. But today, I think I've seen something that is a bit more interesting to me anyway, because we know these guys have to be working on something else. They have to have another project going on. But with some trademark filings that they have under their name, we now have an idea of what these projects may be. So let's take a look. Here are their trademark filings for Analogue Inc. And as you can see, they have the Mega SG, the Super NT Analogue, so on and so forth. But then they also have two, count it, two very new ones here, the Analogue Pocket and the Analogue 8. So the Analogue 8 is a little more mysterious as to what it could be. We'll read into that one in a second, but might have some idea here. I think a pretty good idea of what it could be, but this is all speculation. But the Analogue Pocket is the one that I'm finding really interesting. So let's take a look at that one first. The Analogue Pocket trademark. So Analogue Pocket trademarked by Analogue, Seattle, Washington. On Thursday, February 28th, 2019, federal trademark registration was filed for the Analogue Pocket. So there we go. Let's take a look at a little bit more information, what the actual filing is, what the description is. Consumer video game machines, namely video game machines and handheld game unit for playing electronic games. Key, handheld game, unit, several words there. Analogue Pocket, what do you think this could be? Pretty damn sure we're going to be having an FPGA-based Game Boy in our hands sometime in the near future. They already have these cores for the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color. Not too sure about Game Boy Advance. Maybe they got some magic going on, but Game Boy and Game Boy Color is something that can be played on the NT Mini with those cores. I think this will definitely be awesome if that's actually what it is. And I have a really good feeling that it just may be that. Possibly they could also integrate some other systems into it. Sega Game Gear, Sega Master System, they have cores for those as well. But if they're sticking strictly to handheld gaming, it would make sense to officially support, at minimum, Game Boy and Game Boy Color, because there's a shit ton of games for those, right? To be able to play those would be awesome. But to take it a step further, if they're doing Game Boy Color, I'm not sure what kind of screen they would use, but to have that, like a nice quality screen that could support, the resolutions properly, all the scaling, all the features that they're typically known to be putting into these things. I don't think Game Gear would be counted out. Maybe the way the system is set up, it could handle it. But I would definitely be happy with Game Boy and Game Boy Color at minimum. Sega Game Gear, I loved the Game Gear, had one as a kid growing up. I would much rather, if I had to choose Game Gear, Game Boy, and Game Boy Color, I'd rather have the Game Boy line. But it would be really awesome, even more awesome, to have Game Boy Advance. Now, obviously, this would be like multiple cartridge slots. Possibly they could do where it's just Game Boy slot and then you could sideload through SD other systems, possibly with a jailbroken firmware. That stuff's bound to happen with these guys. But maybe possibly like how the Mega SG is supposed to have the cartridge adapters. It did ship with the one for the Master System. Maybe they could have additional ones for the Game Gear, however it works, right? That could be pretty cool. So that's really what this looks like it's gonna be. There's the whole events of the trademarks when they were filed and all that good stuff. It's not really tons of stuff that you could look at here, but this is something official that we could speculate on. Speculation is fun as long as we're not getting too crazy with it. Taking what they've said, the Analogue Pocket, it's pointing at a handheld game unit. That's what it says in the filing here. So can't wait to see more, hear more, find out what these guys are doing with that. Now, the other one, which, like I said, I'm pretty sure Analogue Pocket's going to be a handheld. The Analogue 8, though, that's the one that's a little more mysterious. Video game system comprised of a video game console, power supply, USB cable, user manual sold as a unit. Video game hardware, namely video game consoles, corresponding cables to connect to a television, sold as a unit. This is pretty interesting because I've been speculating. It also says on Tuesday, February 19th, they had the filing for the Analogue 8. So it's like these things are all, the filings were going out around the same time. This one, the Analogue 8, like we could speculate quite a bit on this. And my previous sentiments and thoughts on projects that Analogue could possibly be working on was TurboGrafx 16 or a cheaper version of the NT Mini. Now, maybe that's what this is going to be. Maybe that's what this is. This is going to be the cheaper version of the NT Mini, because if you dug into it, like they had the NT Mini. I mean, what do they put out? The NT Lite? I mean, what would they call it to not create any kind of confusion? I mean, is this a niche product? In a sense, I guess it is, but it's a very popular one. A lot of people have bought these products from Analogue. So I don't think the confusion would necessarily be crazy because it's a lot of word of mouth, a lot of like people who follow Analogue who would know what these products are. But I almost had this feeling that that's what this is going to be. The Analogue 8 is going to be their cheaper version of the NT Mini, the NES FPGA based system. I would love that if that was the case. And if we got the cores for all the other things that were supported on the NT Mini, because it supported a ton of systems. Now, that's where a lot of people are speculating on this. The Analogue 8, maybe it's not just the cheaper version of the NT Mini. Maybe it's just a full-on 8-bit system that supports all these 8-bit consoles through cartridge adapters, such as how the Mega SG has been built to work with other systems. Besides, loading cores through the jailbroken firmware, they're supposed to have additional adapters. Maybe that's how this will work. Maybe it'll be a little bit more of a premium device and have multiple cartridge slots. I would think they probably won't do that. It would be more so like, hey, here's some adapters to play your legitimate carts. But if you take a look on Retro RGB's website, that was the cleanest place that I could find that had the supported cores for the NT Mini. But as you see, there's tons of stuff that could be played on that original device. All 8-bit stuff that we got going on here. NES, Famicom, Sega Master System, SG-1000, ColecoVision, Atari 2600, Game Gear, Game Boy Color, NSF Sound Player, Gamate, Supervision, Game King. I'm not really aware of a lot of these, or few of them anyway. I know most of them. Atari 7800, Arcadia 2001, Channel F, Create Vision. I don't know why that's being cut off on the side. Odyssey 2, Adventure Vision, RCA Studio 2, and Video Brain and Television coming soon, plus more. I don't know when the last time this article was updated, but as you see, that's a lot of awesomeness. And if they were to be putting out the Analogue 8, possibly it would just have support for most of the popular systems here. That would definitely be cool. But then at the same time, if they're going to be doing the Analogue Pocket, if this device, the Analogue 8, if it already plays Game Boy games, are people going to double dip and get the handheld version as well? Maybe that's what both of these are going to be. One is the home version, the other is the to-go version, right? The one that you play while you're in the dentist office or on the bus or subway, whatever the heck you're doing, right? Maybe they'll do that. Will people jump on both of them? Hell yeah, most likely they would. I probably would, as long as the price point is decent, as long as it's not outrageous. I believe the NT Mini was like what, $450 at some point. It's kind of a high price. I almost pulled the trigger, and I kind of wish I did when it was still in stock way back when. I hesitated on it. I waited too long. When I was ready to do it, it was gone. But I don't know at this point, in time, if I'd be willing to spend that kind of money. I think the sweet spot with, these devices being $189, I think to me is fair for what they are. If the Analogue 8 stays at that price point and has all that support, I'll definitely be on board with that. But I would imagine if there's like a bunch more cartridge slots built into it, it might be more, depending upon features. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. But it's definitely something I am excited to find out more about. Definitely that Analogue Pocket is sounding pretty sweet as well. We've been covering a lot of portable gaming on my channel as of late, and this could be the ultimate one if it's playing Game Boy and Game Boy Color games. Because you guys know I've been on the hunt. I've been searching for the perfect device. We have all these different screens that you could put into a Game Boy Color or a Game Boy. They're good. You know, I have the Freckle Shack coming soon for the Game Boy Color. I've messed with the Midwest Embedded and the McWill screen for the Game Boy Color, and they both have their pros and cons. But to get a device that's already set up for you, you don't have to modify, and it just plays stuff amazingly well. That is what I'm looking forward to, and hopefully that's what Analogue is going to be delivering. So, hey, we might hear an official announcement from these guys pretty soon. I would imagine, hopefully so. Really excited to find out. I'm setting my money aside, setting my pennies aside, cashing in my aluminum cans, my bottles. Got to get those, what are these, nickels or something, couple pennies. Set them aside because Analogue's going to be getting my money again. So, hey, guys, really do appreciate you hanging out with me on this speculative video here. But, hey, I'll put a link in the description. You can take a look at these trademarks for yourself. Follow along. And with that said, I will catch you guys next time. Peace out, bye-byes, and boom. Boy.